Let's start with the hunting methods that were merely inefficient and work our way towards the ones that were basically just creative ways to commit suicide. For thousands of years, humanity has been locked in an epic battle with the animal kingdom, and while we eventually invented brilliant tools like the bow and arrow, the rifle, and the buy one get one free coupon at the supermarket, our journey there was paved with some truly spectacularly dumb ideas. These are the methods that make you wonder how our species ever made it to the top of the food chain. Today, we're counting down the 5 dumbest hunting methods in history. Let's begin. Number 5. Bat fouling. The name alone sounds like a bad superhero's hobby, and the method isn't much better. Practiced in Europe for centuries, bat fouling was a technique for catching birds at night while they were sleeping. The plan was as simple as it was chaotic. A group of hunters would go into the woods after dark, carrying torches, lanterns, and long poles with nets on them. They would find a tree full of roosting birds, then suddenly light their torches and start banging on the tree with sticks. The idea was to disorient the sleeping birds with the sudden light and noise, causing them to panic and fly blindly into the waiting nets. The reality, however, was more like a pillow fight in an aviary. You had a bunch of guys in the pitch-black forest waving torches and swinging nets wildly as a cloud of terrified birds flew in every direction. The amount of effort involved for a handful of dazed pigeons was, to put it mildly, inefficient. It was less of a hunt and more of a clumsy late-night bird party. Number 4. The buffalo jump. Now, on the surface, this method, used by Native American Plains tribes for thousands of years, seems brutally effective. The plan was simple. Get an entire herd of bison to stampede off a cliff. The result was a prehistoric all-you-can-eat buffet waiting at the bottom. But let's look at the logistics. This wasn't a hunt. It was a massive, high-stakes community project. It required dozens of people to build long drive lines of rock piles to funnel the herd, and a few brave or insane young men known as buffalo runners. Their job was to disguise themselves as animals, get the herd's attention, and then lead them in a full-speed charge towards a cliff, peeling off at the last possible second. If their timing was even slightly off, they didn't get dinner, they became part of the pileup at the bottom. But the real dumb part? The sheer spectacular wastefulness. You didn't get 1 or 2 bison, you got the whole herd, hundreds of them. It was impossible to butcher and preserve all that meat before it rotted. It was the ancient equivalent of using a cannon to hunt a squirrel. It was the ultimate display of teamwork and the ultimate lesson in terrible inventory management. Number 3. Carellian bear hunting. Most hunting methods are designed to give the hunter an advantage. Distance, surprise, superior firepower. This next method, practiced by ancient cultures in the Carellian region of Finland and Russia, threw all of that out the window in favor of what can only be described as a heavily armed staring contest. The goal was to hunt a massive Eurasian brown bear while it was hibernating. First, a hunter had to find a bear's den in the dead of winter. Then, instead of, say, blocking the entrance and waiting for spring, he would crawl inside, in the darkness, with the bear. The only equipment allowed was a torch for light and a single heavy spear known as a bear spear, which had a crossbar below the blade to stop a charging bear from impaling the hunter against the back wall of the cave. The plan was to wake the bear up by shouting at it, and then in the cramped, pitch-black den, win a one-on-one spear fight against a 1,000-pound animal that had just been rudely awakened from its nap. Every single part of this plan is a terrible idea. You're fighting a bear in its own house, where it's angriest, where you have no room to move, and your only defense is a glorified pointy stick. It was less a hunt and more of a cultural tradition of seeing who was brave enough to volunteer for a mauling. Number 2. Ancient Egyptian hippo hunting. The ancient Egyptians gave us pyramids, hieroglyphs, and advanced mathematics. They were, without a doubt, one of the most brilliant civilizations in history, which makes it even more baffling that they looked at the hippopotamus, a 4-ton, hyper-aggressive water tank with a bite that can snap a crocodile in half, and thought, yeah, let's go poke it with a stick from a paper boat. The method, depicted in ancient tomb paintings, was a masterclass in terrible decision-making. A team of hunters would paddle out into the Nile on a flimsy papyrus skiff. Their goal was to get close enough to a hippo to hit it with a harpoon. Now, this harpoon wouldn't kill the hippo. Oh no, that would be too simple. The harpoon was attached to a long rope. The plan was to anger the most dangerous animal in Africa, tie it to your structurally questionable boat, and then engage in a game of tug-of-war. Let's break down the flaws. You are on the hippo's home turf. Your boat is made of reeds. The creature you have just stabbed is famous for its territorial rage and has a habit of destroying boats for fun. Your brilliant plan has resulted in you being physically tethered to a 4-ton torpedo of muscle and teeth that is now actively trying to murder you. This wasn't a hunt. This was a team-building exercise in how to get drowned, trampled, and bitten in half all at the same time. And number 1, Koryak poison whale hunting. And now the moment you've been waiting for, the undisputed heavyweight champion of bad ideas. A hunting method so brilliantly idiotic, it makes fighting a bear in a cave look like a carefully planned safety drill. For centuries, the Koryak people of Siberia hunted whales, and their weapon of choice was a harpoon coated in a deadly poison made from aconite or wolfsbane. This toxin is so potent, it can kill a whale. It can also, very easily, kill a human. And that brings us to the first step of the plan, testing the poison's potency. How did they do this? By having the hunter literally lick the poison-laced harpoon tip. If his lips and tongue went numb, the poison was ready. If he got the dosage wrong and died on the spot, well, at least they knew it was potent. But the genius doesn't stop there. After surviving their own weapon, the hunters would paddle out in a small boat, stab the whale once, and then just let it go. They had no lines, no floats. They just hoped the whale would die somewhere nearby and eventually wash up on a beach they could find. Let's summarize. Your plan is to taste test a deadly neurotoxin, paddle next to the largest creature on Earth, poke it, and then go home and cross your fingers. You have a significant chance of poisoning yourself, a near certain chance of being smashed by the whale, and a minuscule chance of ever finding the whale's body. This isn't a hunting method. This is a multi-stage plan for failure, a masterclass in inefficiency, and without a doubt, the single dumbest way anyone has ever tried to get dinner. And there you have it. From clumsy bird parties to a suicidal game of tug-of-war with a hippo, our ancestors proved that the path to the top of the food chain wasn't always a straight line. Sometimes it was a series of spectacular, life-threatening detours. Now, we know history is filled with brilliant and not-so-brilliant ideas. What's the dumbest or most bizarre hunting method you've ever heard of? Let us know in the comments below. Your suggestion might just be dumb enough to make it into a future video. If you enjoyed laughing at these historical fails, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.